Aesthetics and personality of the typefaces you choose to work with should always come down to project needs and goals, art direction, context of use, and mood. Let's take a look at a couple of common adjectives we can use to describe type alongside fitting examples. Here are a couple of neutral examples. There's not a lot of personality in these typefaces, and they allow you to focus fully on the content. All connotations or associations that distract the reader from the text are removed. Neutral typefaces are versatile and adaptable. They allow the more branded typefaces they're paired with to stand out. Neutral typefaces are usually uniform and can be seen as a bit boring. There is no such thing as total neutrality though. Neutral typefaces are intentionally the quiet voice that doesn't introduce conflict, that can be very practical for UI design. If your brand needs to feel clean, trustworthy, approachable, non-polarizing, calm, timeless, restrained, clear, and effortless, a neutral typeface might be the ideal candidate. Quirky typefaces are the polar opposite of neutral ones. Analyze the examples in front of you. They are playful, fun, informal, and approachable. Some more, some less. Quirky typefaces can often feel childish too. Quirky doesn't need to mean over the top though. There might be certain elements that help the typeface stand out without it being overwhelming and childish. For example, Luvka showcases its quirkiness in the character G, while the rest of the typeface stays pretty neutral and legible. Qualion Round feels friendly due to its soft and rounded edges. Isadora Soft has quirky curves and slabs. Finally, Indie Flower feels extremely playful as it reminds us of a child's writing. Quirky typefaces can be identified through curves, angled terminals, interesting overshoots, and similar characteristics that add interest. The more you move to the heavily quirky side of typography, the more you're approaching the cheesy and cheap-looking side too. Quirky typefaces are more likely to make an immediate impact on the viewer. It's up to your skills to make that impact a positive one. Elegant typefaces can often be referred to as formal or fancy as well. This category is ideal for serious, polite, formal, and sophisticated brands. Naturally, a lot of typefaces that fit into this category are serif typefaces. Elegant fonts feel classic and luxurious from the moment you see them. They can be heavily influenced by calligraphy. Clean and minimal typefaces often feel elegant too. The hardest part is finding the right balance of attributes you want your type to be associated with. Classic URV is not a serif typeface, but it was heavily influenced by stark contrast of static serif typefaces. Merriweather is a standard serif typeface, adding a more noticeable formal feel. As you move from less to more formal options, the stroke contrast will become more noticeable. Bodoni is a prime example of a serif typeface with extremely noticeable contrast in strokes. You might also move more into the handwritten category. Greatly is an example of a handwritten typeface which feels like it belongs on a formal letter. Keep in mind that handwritten direction often leads to a more spontaneous, informal, and even friendly feel. Other categories of typefaces are not as broad. One of the other categories we can go over are loud and assertive typefaces. They feel blunt, daring, and different. If you'd like your brand to feel edgy, modern, new, genuine, and rebellious, this category can help you achieve just that. Arturgra Sans Extended in italic style looks bold, daring, and it feels like it's moving. Jubilat is a bold slab serif typeface. Suprema is an example of a geometric typeface styled in all caps and extra bold weight to create a sense of assertiveness. That means that even a non-Derek typeface with the right styling starts to feel louder and more assertive. Finally, Cinematographica feels loud and daring because of its all-caps formatting. It's a typeface without lowercase options. All of them feel similarly loud and assertive, but the same feeling is achieved through different means. Techy is also a very popular way to describe type. The more squared the font feels, the more techier it is. Some of the less techy options often share features with the neutral typefaces, since tech brands love to feel clean too. Geometric typefaces fit in well into this category. From grotesque typefaces that have a more squared shape to completely squarish typefaces and monospace typefaces, all of them fall under the techy category. Some typefaces evoke nostalgia by nodding to the past. If you love your brand to feel retro and nostalgic, this might be the way to go. With quirky and overly tacky and retro directions, you can easily end up on the cheesy and cheap side of typography. Those are typefaces that try overly hard to represent a certain feeling. More often than not, less is more. It's a tough balancing act, and if you overdo it, you can make your designs easily look unprofessional. Let's look at some examples of a particular feel and how you can achieve it without being 100% obvious. For example, let's say that you'd love your designs to feel futuristic. Left is obviously the over-the-top example, while right achieves the same goal without looking cheap. And here are also two options for a playful, childlike feel. Which one do you think looks better? Why? There are a lot of subliminal associations we have with type. Other examples where we've seen that type influence our future interactions with it. That's why a lot of typefaces you might have loved as a kid are now seen as design crimes. Comic Sans was overused for a lot of wrong applications, from school presentations to restaurant menus. Tryon Pro is overused in movie posters. A lot of Google fonts, since they are free, are overused and associated with cheap design. If you want your project and brand to feel premium, your go-to is most likely not going to be a free font everyone else can easily use. It completely misses the purpose of the desired premium look and feel. That doesn't mean that Google Fonts is bad though, but it is something to think about in certain design projects. All of the obvious and less obvious associations influence our design decisions. But if you take your time, analyze your options, goals you want to achieve, the brand, and the audience you're designing for, you will be on the right track. Once again, it's all about being strategic, deliberate, and consistent.